Content warning: this video discusses real violent crimes and may be disturbing. It is for educational and documentary purposes only. All details are based on public reports and court records. Across different countries and decades, these cases involve young people, vulnerable victims, and acts of violence that raised difficult questions about responsibility, trauma, and justice. Megan Emervich. In Oakland County, Michigan, a different case began with a family argument and ended with a chemical attack. 2 days after turning 18, Megan Emervich threw lye powder onto her sleeping father, 64-year-old Conrad Emervich, and poured water over him. The resulting chemical reaction burned more than 40% of his body. Conrad lived with Megan in Groveland Township and was a chronic alcoholic. His blood alcohol concentration on the day of the attack was 0.255, more than 3 times Michigan's legal driving limit. Megan had been scheduled to attend a salon appointment before her 18th birthday party, but her father was too intoxicated to drive her. Prosecutors argued that this triggered her anger. While Conrad slept on the couch, Megan threw sodium hydroxide drain cleaner onto him and poured water over him. A friend later found him severely burned, with his legs discolored green and his hands purple. Conrad spent 5 months in the hospital. He underwent skin grafts and kidney dialysis, and both of his legs were amputated. He was eventually removed from life support and died on March 6, 2022. Conrad briefly regained consciousness but said he could not identify his attacker. His son, Austin, later testified that Conrad privately told him Megan was responsible. Investigators recovered lye powder from the couch. For cell phone videos Megan sent to a family friend also showed her admitting that she had thrown objects toward the area where the chemicals were located. Her initial assault charge was upgraded after Conrad's death. She was charged with unlawful possession of harmful devices causing death, a felony punishable by life in prison, along with misdemeanor domestic violence. During the June 2023 trial, Assistant Prosecutor Jason Dantas argued that Megan had deliberately carried out a chemical attack. Defense attorney Richard Miller argued that Conrad had never identified Megan, that his intoxication made his statements unreliable, and that the state had not proved she understood the danger. The jury convicted Megan on both counts. Prosecutors requested 7 years, and sentencing guidelines recommended a minimum of 51 to 85 months. But on July 25, 2023, Judge Victoria Valentine imposed 1 year in Oakland County Jail and 5 years of probation, with credit for approximately 56 days already served. Megan was effectively released the same day. Judge Valentine described her as a child in terms of emotional maturity and said she did not believe Megan fully understood the consequences of her actions. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald argued that Megan had lashed out in anger and taken her father's life. The prosecution appealed, but the Michigan Court of Appeals affirmed the sentence in December 2024. As of 2025, Emervich remained on probation until July 2028. Lisa Healy and Sarah Davey. In September 1998, 15-year-old Lisa Healy and 14-year-old Sarah Davey were invited into the home of 71-year-old widow Lily in Failsworth, Greater Manchester. Lily lived alone and was described by neighbors as quiet, kind, and deeply lonely. Her only son had immigrated to Tasmania. The girls were welcomed into her home for tea. Instead, they attacked her. They squirted shampoo into her eyes, slashed her legs with a knife, and tied a gag around her mouth so tightly that her dentures were forced into her throat. Lily suffocated. The girls vandalized the home, wrote their names on the walls, carved them into the furniture, and threw away family photographs. They then placed Lily's body inside a wheelie bin and rolled it through the streets before dumping it into the Rochdale Canal. Over the following days, they returned to the house, made roughly 258 calls from Lily's phone, and used her pension money to buy crisps, chocolate, and sweets. Lily's body was recovered 3 days later. The evidence against the girls was overwhelming. They had left their names on the walls and furniture, witnesses had seen them with the wheelie bin, and they had openly used Lily's phone and pension card. Both were arrested within days and tried for murder at Manchester Crown Court before Mr. Justice Sachs in 1999. Because they were under 18, they received detention at Her Majesty's pleasure, an indeterminate sentence equivalent to life imprisonment. Justice Sachs imposed an 8-year minimum term on each. He described the crime as an act of unbelievable cruelty and said the girls had destroyed a frail old woman for totally pathetic reasons. Healy served approximately 11 years. While at HMP Askham Grange, she became pregnant by Michael Dent, an inmate at HMP Moorland. She gave birth to a daughter in April 2009 and was later paroled. United Kingdom Social Services arranged a protected identity for Healy and her child. She remains on a life license and can be recalled to prison at any time. Sarah Davies' path was less stable. She had reportedly been recalled to prison 7 times by 2024 before being released again in March of that year. Lola Luna. On January 30, 2021, 16-year-old Sienna Pure Tucker arrived at Lola Philippa Luna's home in Bremerton, Washington, for a fight arranged through social media. Pure Tucker was a young mother, and her 5-month-old child was in a nearby car with friends. Luna, who had no prior criminal record, came outside carrying a pocket knife hidden behind her back. Her defense described her as a cheerleader who carried the knife for protection. Pure Tucker swung first. Luna responded with the blade, inflicting 24 stab wounds to Pure Tucker's face, shoulder, neck, and back during a confrontation that lasted about 1 minute. A neighbor's Ring doorbell camera recorded the entire incident. Pure Tucker was taken to Harborview Medical Center but died that afternoon. Investigators recovered the knife and obtained the Ring footage, a 911 recording, witness statements, and social media messages arranging the fight. Luna later participated in a 5-hour custodial interview with Detective Garland after signing a Miranda waiver. Prosecutors described her demeanor as flippant. She did not learn that Pure Tucker had died until the 5th hour, when she requested an attorney. Luna was charged as an adult with second-degree murder and a deadly weapon enhancement. Prosecutors introduced a Halloween 2020 TikTok video referencing the purge, in which Luna held a kitchen knife, along with an Instagram post mentioning stabbing energy. The defense tried to introduce evidence that Pure Tucker had received a threatening message described as a green light, but the court excluded it. At trial, Deputy Prosecutor Joe Lombardi argued that 24 stab wounds meant the confrontation was no longer a fight. Defense attorney John Cannon argued self-defense and described Luna as a cheerleader, not a predator. The jury convicted Luna in December 2022. On January 30, 2023, Judge Jennifer Forbes Hauer sentenced her to 14 years. But in October 2025, the Washington Supreme Court vacated the conviction. Chief Justice Deborah Stevens ruled that Luna had not validly waived her Miranda rights. The court noted that she was a newly turned 16-year-old, had no prior police contact, had suffered head trauma, and believed she was required to cooperate. The court also cited cumulative evidentiary errors and youth and adultification bias doctrine. As of April 2026, Luna's conviction and sentence were no longer in effect. Her status had reverted to pretrial, and the Kitsap County prosecutor had not announced whether the state would seek a retrial. Some defendants received lengthy sentences. One was released almost immediately. Another conviction was erased years later. But in every case, the same question remains: how should the justice system balance accountability with the fact that the people responsible were still young when their lives, and the lives of their victims, changed forever? If this story impacted you, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Zitty Shadow for more true crime cases and deep dives.